one of the things I like to do is duplicate tracks and process these tracks differently. So for instance, on the kick drum, I have split it into 3 frequency bands. I have one track that has the low end, like the bottom end, which generally is below 80, 90 hertz. And then I have the mid, which is always different also, which will be that 80 or 90 hertz on up to maybe like 1 to 2K. And then I'll have the top of the kick, which is like the point of it, the kind of like the click. So that is usually anywhere from 1K on up to 5K. So you want to notch and then after on the third band that starts at 1K, I just usually leave it open to as far as I want it, 20K if it's necessary, and sometimes I filter it back just based on the sound I'm trying to get. But what I do is this is a form of EQ, because when you have your low end, your mid, and your top on 3 separate tracks, bringing down that middle fader is, it's a form of EQ, because you're bringing down the frequencies in that range down a certain amount of decibels, but it sounds different than an EQ, and I feel like it allows me to get a better sound, and especially because it allows me to compress each one differently if I'm compressing them, which kind of helps you get the low end to sit just right in the speakers, as well as that top that keeps on, that really cuts through the speakers. So it allows you to process them differently and put each segment of that sound in its place. So to me, it just gives you more control. And I also do this with samples, and sometimes it depends. I do this a lot on the focal points, because I feel like it gives me a more natural sound with a lot of control over it. So let me show you what I got here on the first kick track. You see these tracks right here are all the same. It's just a kick track duplicated, just a kick track duplicated twice. Let me enlarge this. Let me take the names off the regions and bring these down to size so you can see what we're dealing with here. Okay, so basically on these 3 kick tracks, I'm going to play them. On kick 1, we have the low frequencies. On kick 2, we have the mid, and on this third kick over here, we have the highs. This is what the low sounds like, and I'll show you the EQ that I have on it. I have on a very steep filter, a low pass, at a 24 dB slope. Forgive me if this video capture isn't processing quickly, but you see I have it filtered. Everything above 88.8 hertz I have filtered out, so we're just getting that bottom end. And it looks like I even gave it a very, very small boost of 0.2 dB at 58, just so it was moving the speakers a little bit more in the entire mix. So then I'm going to add in the mid kick. Let me also show you what I got going on the compressor. I have a Tube-Tech CL1B compressor on the low end, below 88 hertz. And as you can see, the compressor is just tapping it. I have the attack and release set into manual mode, which means that I have control over the attack and release functions with these 2 knobs right here. And what I do with these are I'll use a generally slow attack on a kick in general, but on the low end it allows me to make this attack a little bit faster, and I'm making the low end hit a certain envelope that I'm trying to get within the track, and I'm also using a slow release on it, so the kick is kind of like moving like this, and where a lot of times on a kick you want it to have a slow attack and a faster release, so it has more of a the percussiveness of it is coming out a little bit more. But on the low end, I like the way that it makes the low end sit in the speakers with the slow release time. This is kind of a form of multiband compression. Now this is the mid. I'll play the mid by itself. as you can see, okay, I got it filtered above 80 hertz. I have the frequencies overlapping just a slight bit, and that was just something I did to my ear's taste. So on top of that, I'm also filtering out frequencies above 1.63 kilohertz. And what that is doing is making this basically a kick, you know, a mid kick. So I'm also compressing this band a little bit differently. Okay, as you can see on this, I also have it set into manual mode, but my attack is really slow, so I'm really allowing the transient of that kick drum to come through. I want to hear, that's what makes the kick hard, is the transient. You know, if your attack time is set too fast, you're killing the transient, you're killing the punch, and this is just basically, that's how compressors can take the life out of something, as opposed to making it feel like it's breathing more, making it feel like it's harder, punchier. So I also have the release time set relatively fast, and I set attack and release times too based on the punch I'm trying to hear, and I set release times based on the timing of the song. How does it pull the kick drum when it releases? What is it doing to the pocket of the drums? These are the things that you have to listen for. And so that's basically how I'm processing that mid kick. Here's the high part. I know that's sounds a lot quieter, but I'm filtering out everything above 1.63 kilohertz. So we're really just getting the snap. And I am compressing this, but I'm actually running this to an outboard compressor, a TubeTech CL2A, which is almost like the hardware version of the plugin I was using previously on the kick. But this one I find to be a little bit more aggressive sounding than the plugin version. So I like to use that on my snap so I can really make that snap hit hard, because that's what's giving the kick the illusion of being hard, and what is going to make it really come through at low speaker volumes. So basically, let's combine these. And that's basically what I came up with. And I'll also tell you that on the kick drum, on the outboard TubeTech that I'm using, I do have the slowest attack time set and the fastest release time set, and basically I just blended the three tracks to my taste. As you can see, this low track is the low end is sitting a little bit quieter in volume to the mid track, and the high track is way higher in volume. It also has to do with some gain staging I'm doing on some outboard gear, so it might not end up looking that high if I weren't going through the outboard gear. But this is a different way that I like to process these things. And as you saw, I didn't really do any EQ moves. You know, I didn't do any cutting or any dipping at this point. I might have to later in the mix as it proceeds, but basically that's my technique that that I like to use sometimes on a kick drum. So tune in to the next video that I'm about to do right now. It is on parallel compression. I also get a lot of questions about parallel compression, so here we go.